speaker is someone who has made this industry, have paved the great path for women in wedding and portrait photography. She inspires me every time I look at her photos. She is an Icon ambassador. Let me introduce the Icon Theater stage, Bambi Cantrell.
Thank you, Uncle Mike. Good morning, folks. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. You know, I've been photographing for many years. This is my 31st WPPI. Can you believe that? Yes, it's been amazing. And so, it's so funny they misspelled my name on that. Who's named Bambi with an E, right? No, it's Bambi with an I. And speaking of my name, yes, that is my real name. Like you'd give that to yourself, right? I want to be named after every, whatever, those people. You know who I'm talking about. You're here in Vegas. So let's talk about portraits. Now, I'm going to talk about a variety of different things when it comes to portraits, but I'm also weaving in wedding. Why? Because it's all the same thing. You know, all a girl is on her wedding day is a girl wearing a white dress. So if you're photographing weddings, how many of you shoot weddings today? Okay, how many of you are portrait photographers? And how many of you do both? Great, a lot of you do. So the number one thing that we need for portraits for a lifetime or weddings for a lifetime is we need to identify who is the client, who is the person that we're going to photograph. Is it a little kid? Is it an adult? Or is it a combination? And what I like to do is I like to identify who it is that I'm going to photograph right away. So how do we do that? How do we find out what they want in order to make them happy when it comes to a photograph? Do we ask them lots of questions? Well, you can do that. You could ask tons of questions, but sometimes people don't always give you the answer. They sometimes will say, oh, well, in wedding, for instance, they'll say, oh, I want all photojournalism, and then they're posing all day long. So I like to get the unspoken cues from a person that tell me volumes about who they are. What are they wearing? Now, wait a minute. Why does that matter? Why does it matter what a person is wearing when you see them? Because we wear things that we like. Would you agree? So because we wear clothing that we like, we do our hair in a certain way because that's what we like. We color our hair according to what our taste is. That tells us the things that a person likes without having to use lots and lots of words. So the first thing I do is I want to know what they're wearing. So with this young lady, what does this say about her? Well, it tells me she's a bit contemporary. She's got beautiful body art on her arm. Her hair is a beautiful shade of lavender. Would you classify her as conservative? Maybe not, right? So this is the first step to me in identifying who that client is and how I can make them happy. So once I've done that, the next fundamental that is really important is the way that a photograph is lit. You know, I have a full-service studio in Benicia, California, and my studio has lots of very large windows. So quite often we use natural light, and sometimes people think, well, that's the only way to go, and they're a little bit afraid of studio lighting. But it really depends on what the subject matter is. So we're going to take my picture. Whoa. This is the session for my new headshot. And this is using studio lighting. So it's horrible, right? Would you agree? It's not a flattering picture. Why? So let's dissect the picture just a little bit and see what went wrong and how we can correct. Now, of course, we could go in and retouch the heck out of it, right? But your time is valuable, and I'm telling you, my time is super valuable. So I like to get it right in the camera. I think it's important to know the difference between an f-stop and a bus stop. Right? Are you with me? So when you look at this photograph, the first thing that we identify, there's no catch lights in my eyes. They're very small catch lights, right? And because the main light is super high, what is it doing to the face? Do you see how all it's done is accentuate any of my character lines? Do you think a woman I'll be 64 in a couple of days, do you think that that's what we want? Yeah, maybe not. So how do I correct for that? And this really, to me, it helps us to appreciate the importance of the way you light something. The next picture, better? No, I did not retouch the tar out of it. What I did is I adjusted the light. And that's important. So what I did, this is clamshell lighting. And clamshell lighting is when you have your main light above the camera and it's flat lighting your subject, okay? So in the first image, the clamshell, the main light, which was a 6-foot umbrella with a white interior. It was a very soft light. You can tell the light's soft, right? Because of the shadows on the face. See how soft the shadow is around the nose? So it's a very large light source. But in the first image, it was up too high. And when it's up too high, it creates those shadows under the face, under the eyes and such, which is not very flattering. So all I did to adjust it was drop it down significantly until I saw the catch lights in the eye, and then bring in my reflector underneath so that there was a gap about this wide. Yeah? So, and then that's where I'm going to put the camera through, is right through that slot so that the light is very, very beautiful and soft. The next thing that I did that I think is really important is, in my head, I went to the kind of person that I am. Believe it or not, I'm actually a little on the shy side. I just pretend when I'm around people to be a little bit more not so shy. But I really like quietness and quiet imagery. Well, now what about this? How have I lit this image? And why? You see, and that's the key, is you want to think about who this all goes back to who. Who the subject is depends on how you light it and what they're wearing. So with this young lady, is it flat lighting? No, not hardly. It's side lighting. So it's between a 45 and a 90-degree angle, and the light is nice and high. How do we know that? Well, look where the shadows fall. And why is it lit from the side? Because look, we get that beautiful shape on her body. In addition to that, do you notice how that she has, her dress is very dramatic. So the dramatic dress, the dramatic hair, the dramatic style of this individual dictated, and the location, dictated a more dramatic style of portrait. So these kinds of concepts are super, super timeless. They never go away. And this is studio, just beautiful studio lighting. But again, and it's close to the subject, and it's close because I like that bit of softer light. Now what about this? Whoa, this is sunlight on the subject. So why did I choose to photograph in this way? Well, here's the deal. First of all, on a bright sunny day, we're going to get that bright pop of color. See how small the catch light is on the little pink ball? Small light source, the sunlight. Whoa, guess what? It's, how many thousands of miles away. So even though it's a very large light source, it's very far. So, no, but in this case, I bring this up to show you what happens with your subject when you turn the body towards the light. And in this instance, it's not super flattering for her body, and that's why I chose to show you this. You see how when you photograph with the subject turned towards the light source, and especially if she's wearing a white dress, see how it flattens out the beading on her gown? So what might be better? What might be better is to turn her body away from the light so that the light skims across that dress. Does that make sense to you? So, now we get to other types of imagery. You know what? This is just a pregnant girl, and I hope that you're starting to connect the dots between a portrait and a wedding portrait or a wedding image. You see, it's all the same thing, because light is light, and it's all designed. Light helps us to be able to define a subject and draw attention to what we want to draw attention to. These two portraits were done at the same time. The window is just the existing light source that I used to capture this. But placement of the subject in relation to that window is really critical. If I'm going to use a single light source, then what is important to me is that I have a highlight behind the person. And that just happens to be the existing light in the room, maybe from an overhead light that's in the room, or the way the window light skims across the background, so that I can actually create a two different lighting ratio with just a single light. Are you with me? Does that make sense? So in this case, what am I trying to emphasize? That beautiful, soft, round baby bump. And then I want that light to fall off. So I want highlights and shadows, and then another highlight to give definition. and then shadow, and then another little highlight. See that little highlight right back there? That's really, really important, especially if you're photographing someone of color. Darker skin tones, I want to create that separation. We don't want their hair, that black hair, kind of going into nothing. So when you're photographing, I want you to think about, especially if you're working out of your home or you are working in an environment, I want you to start paying attention to where light falls on a subject naturally. Wherever I'm at, I have a game that I play with myself that I go, if I had to photograph right here and now, where's my chosen spot? And if you do that even when you're sitting in a restaurant, then that means that no matter where you are in the future, that you'll be prepared to take beautiful pictures anywhere. Another beautiful pregnant girl, notice by my camera position is really critical in making her look more shapely and then not drawing undue attention to the areas that are larger. For instance, with her arm, you notice that there's not a significant amount of light. We're not seeing the broad part of the arm. See, if I photographed her right in this way, how big is that going to make her arm look? And because it's lighter than the face and it's bigger than the face, guess what you're going to notice? The arm, right? So we don't want to do that. Sometimes moving your camera's position in relation to that light source gives you a more dramatic, beautiful image. So in this case, with this young woman, I just chose to turn her body a little bit more towards the light source. And then I moved my camera position so that just a very tight, very small sliver of her body is being illuminated. And then, of course, with the background, really critical. See how her body is separated from that background by that existing natural highlight. So now let's talk about some really quick techniques. How about photographing doing silhouettes and such? Why not make a couple of things that are just a little different? Well, how can you do this? Well, if you're at the home of your subject, let's say that you're shooting a wedding or a portrait, doing a portrait session. A lot of homes have sheers on their windows, right? So I try to find the window that has the brightest sunlight coming through, and then I'm able to capture a beautiful silhouette of that person in a very simple, easy way. I always try to find a place and time, what I can do to capture an image that has meaning, but do it really quickly. My goal is to do a session and be done with it in about 15 minutes, or in maybe 45 for a max with families and such. Occasionally, these Nikon cameras are so amazing and they're so tack sharp. Occasionally I go, well, what if I just turn the focus off and turn it off focus? And that's what I did to capture this. I could do that in post, but again, I'm trying to capture images in real time, and I want to do it in such a way that it is super fast and in a way that is using my time in a real efficient way, okay? So just turning off the focus, and then all I do is look through the camera till it's defocused to where I feel pleasing. It's pleasing to me. There are wonderful emotional energies that we can create from people. Why not in your studio? One of the techniques and things that I do is I have lots of random, silly little props in my studio. Nothing expensive. I'm very, very frugal. Just give me some fabric, some tree branches and such, and I can be content. And I try to create a variety of images, and this was for a personal shoot that I did recently. And the reason I do that is because in addition to my client work, I want to try to create some images that are a bit surprising for my website. That's important, especially in today's world when people are always on the internet. I want them to come and see my website and see my portfolio and see something that they haven't seen before or see something that looks unique. Then people will hire you in spite of what you charge, not because of what you charge. We're going to talk more about posing in a few minutes, but how you can use a simple prop to just create something beautiful. This is nothing more than just a piece of fabric on her body. And I use a piece of fabric and a piece of wire that I just anchor to the dress, a little tiny thin piece of wire, bring it around the neck so it holds it up, and then I just pull it tight across the body, and we're good to go. And it cost me like $10. So it's super easy way, without having to spend a lot of money on things and to be able to create something that's got beautiful drama. Same thing with this. I bought that mannequin for $35. I couldn't help myself. And these are the kinds of things that I'm trying to create images using the fundamentals of finding out who the client is and then creating beautiful lighting. So let's talk now about action versus reaction. I don't tell people to smile. I don't tell them to smile, because if we do, guess what? They start, putting on that fake smile for people. I'd rather give them a reason to smile. And that's especially important when you're working with families with children. So in the case with this little boy and finding out who that client is, I asked the mom to bring in a few little toys that she had. He loved trains. So the first step in creating beautiful imagery of him is to just set up a scenario. And if you set up a scenario, then children naturally are drawn to that scenario and are willing to, they start playing and they forget about the camera. That's so important to me, is that they forget about the camera and that they just start behaving like children. So that's where my actions in laying the groundwork and get a reaction. So we start like this. And then afterwards, because I've already set up the scene, I've already set the place where this little kid is going to be, they become very comfortable. Then I'm able to capture, I just start letting them play and put little things in their hands or little props, and this is his father's guitar, and then just start letting nature take its course. The mom is literally just standing off camera. I feel that it's really important. Expression is absolutely everything. Expression beats perfection. Well, once we've done that, I really want to show scale on that child. I want to see how small they are or how tall they are in relation to the environment. So we start letting them run down the hallways. I find that if you let children just play, that they will do anything you want them to do because they're enjoying the experience. And the experience is super important to me, that whoever comes in front of my lens, that they enjoy the experience. Bringing bicycles into the studio. We have a client who I recently photographed, and she just learned how to ride a bike. So that's important to me when it comes to the way that I do my homework with a client. I want to find out about, what are some milestones that your children are doing these days? What are they doing? Oh, my little girl just learned how to ride a bike. So once I've done that, then with Daddy down there at the end, so I can start creating an image that's a bit more editorial. Because I've defined, I got the location ahead of time. This is my studio, by the way. I already have laid out the groundwork of the lighting, so I know my results are going to be predictable. Then they can just play and have a good time. Now let's talk about the last thing, which is posing. So I'm going to go through some fundamentals, and then I'm going to do some live demos with you. Because posing makes the difference on whether somebody looks really beautiful and good and or somebody not looking quite their best. So let's identify some things that you can do simply to pose the body. So with this image, I purposely put a piece of plexiglass in front of the subject, because sometimes if you just see the shape, it helps you to identify it, and this is all you have to do. Do you notice how my body rocks forward and backward, and forward and backward? What is really important in this, that's all I did with her. As I said, I just want you to rock forward, and you see how my pelvis rocks forward just slightly? That can create a beautiful, beautiful silhouette. And one of the things that I love what it does when you do that rocking motion is it gives shape to the backside. It gives the bottom shape. So if you're doing boudoir photography, or you're doing photography of a bride wearing a beautiful dress, and it's a tight dress, you can have them do that, have them rock forward. The arms away from the body are critical. Would you agree that if I'm standing like this, that I look larger and I don't look graceful this way, but if I just move my arms away from my body and then turn my body slightly away, that it looks better, right? So it's a super easy thing to do. Bending the knee is really, really an important thing to do. And in fact, I was a judge in competition yesterday, and that was one of the things across the board. You can tell immediately if someone has a knee bent, because if we stand straight like this, we don't look as graceful as we do if we just bend one knee. See how much more it breaks it. It breaks it up. It's very simple. Having those arms away from the body and then having the subject slightly lean forward a little bit with the pelvis. See how that really just draws, it makes the person look a little bit more elegant. But here's the thing, when you do that, you want to become body part specific. So if I want somebody to lean forward or with their and keep their chest straight, then I say, I want you with your chest to lean forward just a little bit. You know what? Let me get Lisa up here. Come here, cutie. This is my beautiful subject, Lisa. Come over here, honey. So even with Lisa, who has a perfect shape, okay, just stand flat-footed on your feet right there. And I know it's really a stretch, Lisa, but just kind of try to look frumpy. Yeah, very good. See? And it's hard for her not to have her bend one knee. But notice what happens. Lisa, I want you to turn your feet towards me a little bit this way. Good job. And now all I want you to do is just bend this knee. Beautiful. And now drop your knee over the other foot. Beautiful. Very good. Okay, straighten out your legs. And now bend this knee and drop it over the leg this way. What's really important when you have that person bend the knee, we don't want the knee turned sideways with the foot. See where my foot is at? We don't want to do that. Why? Because I want you to see what happens with my thigh when we turn that knee this way. See how you're seeing the whole side of the thigh? That's not flattering. But notice what happens if you turn the foot forward. See how now you're only seeing the top or the front part of the knee, which is so much more flattering. So now here we have our beautiful girl right here. And now if the camera's here and the main light is coming from over here, we can really create, we can start, this is a wonderful foundation for doing photographs of a mother and daughter or families. Now watch what happens. If I'm obviously a little bigger than she is, I'm going to step back slightly behind her with my hip. And now, coming closer with our chest, see how now we have that little bit, there's a little bend, and most of my body is hidden. Is that flattering to the subject, especially if you're working with a bigger mom who's concerned about that? Yeah. So now turn a little bit more this way, Lisa, just about that. Bend this knee for me again. Good job. I'm going to turn your hips just a little bit more toward, no, away from the camera. Beautiful. I can also see how now I'm seeing more of her back than I was before. So, and now I'm going to say to the mom, I'm not going to say to her, lean towards your daughter, because this is what we'll do. Right? Is that flattering? No, that's not. But I would say with your chest, I want you to lean towards your daughter. Oh, that's good. And then drop the shoulders. See if your shoulder's way up here. That's not good right there. But for me, and then I might say to Lisa, Lisa, can you give Mama a hug with your cheek? You see how we both kind of leaned forward to the camera a little bit? Notice what happens. Let me ask you this. What does my body language say to you right now? It says back off, right? It says I am closed for business. I am out of it. Don't even talk to me, right? But notice what happens if I do one thing. What did I do different? All I did was lean forward slightly with my chest. So if you're photographing, doing realtor portraits, or if you're doing headshots at a convention or anything like that, just have them slightly lean towards the camera with their chest, just a little bit. Just a tiny little bit, and it makes all the difference in making somebody look more approachable and not less and not closed off. So now, hang on just a second. I'm going to have you stand over there for a second, Lisa. Let's look at our little gal. Let's look at the concept that we just did with her. So with this young lady, what have I done? You notice how her body, in this case, is turned what? Away from the light source. That's really important. And what did it do by having her body turned away? We get this beautiful shadow that goes up the chest and down that leg, which is going to give her body shape, and it makes her look more curvaceous. With a dress like that, we really want to show off that beautiful shape that she has. Then, in addition, I want her hands turned out. Come here, Lisa. Let me show you, and I'm going to demonstrate something for you. So here we have Lisa, our beautiful Lisa. Now we have choices with our arms and our hands. We can show the back of the hand like this. So turn your hand, go like this, but just like out, see? And we're seeing this part, the bigger part of the arm, and the bigger part of the hand. Notice what happens if I just turn that wrist this way, and then just, see now how we're starting to see, we start seeing just a sliver. We're not seeing the huge part of the arm. We're not seeing the big part, because your hand is as big as your face, right? So these are the kind of things that you want to think about. Okay, let's go forward. Thank you. Just stand over there for a second, honey. This is an example. The picture that I have before you now is a great example of how you can create a different kind of attitude from your subject by the way that you have them positioned. With this girl on camera left, notice how she's standing tall and she's almost leaning back slightly. She looks a bit more like, back off, or I'm a tough girl. Whereas on the other side, all I've done is said, I want you with your chest to lean forward slightly. The thing that's good about that is you don't have to even touch your subject to get them to do that. Let me give you an example. All of you, lean towards me now. Okay, now lean back. And this time I want you to lean towards me with your chest. What happened and what changed? Do you see how it made your back sit up a little taller? Really super simple. Those things are really good. So now let me where's my Anton? Anton? Where'd he go? Come here, gorgeous. So now that we have our 2 people up here, come here, cutie. Come out here this way, both of you, Lisa. You can take 2 people and you can make them look, you can give them that wonderful intimate look by the way that you pose them. First of all, kids, move over to the side just so I can show this. I want to show this slide for a second. With this picture right here, notice how that they are, I didn't say to them, just kiss, because people do and they go like this. And they don't look, it doesn't look believable. So they must lean in with a part of the shoulder. So come over here, you guys. And I'm going to end this with just some really quick demonstrations on posing. And by the way, don't get hung up on the fact that she's wearing a wedding gown, because they could be an engaged couple, they could be brother and sister. Well, I'm not going to demonstrate brother and sister posing because they look like a hot couple, right? That might be a little bit more difficult. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to have you, Lisa, come over this way. Turn towards Anton with your feet. You notice I always use the term feet. I say turn your feet towards the camera or this way or that way, because the feet move the body. The feet turn and move the body. Okay, I want Lisa to turn more, and I want you to come in super close right here. Bring this hand right here and tuck it up under his arm, and turn your feet a little bit more towards him. Beautiful. And now I want you to bend one knee. Beautiful. Turn just a whisper more. Beautiful. See how now, by having her turn slightly, she's got beautiful detail on the back of her dress, so I can really showcase that detail. Stand up straight, flat-footed, Missy. Do you see what just happened? It's like, it's no fun, it's flat, and it's not flattering to the subject. Okay, do what you just did right there. And now Anton, he's not right. I mean, if you have a beautiful girl by your side right here, would you be having your hand at your side? No, not at all. So that's an area that I might want to change. So what I'm going to do, Anton, can you put your arm right at her waist right there? And now this time, I want you to use your tummy right there, Missy, and you're going to press your tummy. Don't get too close. Back up at just a whisper. And now with your tummy, just press it towards him. Beautiful. Can I have you bring that foot back just a little bit? Look what Anton's doing with his body. And now, Missy, look right here. Bring this hand right up here on his chest right there. And with your shoulder, I want you to lean into him. Beautiful. You see those kinds of small movements, turning that body that shoulder. So I'm very body part specific. From that, we can then create something just like this. Bringing the hand up here, showcasing the rings. Move yourself around your subject to create a more interesting photograph. So you can start. The cool thing is, especially if it is a wedding image, you don't want to have to be able to make him fluff in that dress all the time, right? Because the more you do, the more time it takes. So I might move myself around. Lisa, beautiful. I want you with your shoulders to lean back a little bit. Beautiful. And now turn your face towards Anton. Love it. Anton, can you turn your face towards your bride a little bit right there? And with your chin, bring it towards her more, your chin, more, a whole bunch, like your chin touching. Beautiful. And from the back angle, this could be a really pretty angle. Now slightly moving. Let me have you do this. Oh, that actually looks even better from here. Beautiful. I want you to hug her like it's the last time you're going to ever hug. I learned that technique from Jerry Guionis. Excellent. Okay, bring those hands down now. And now separate just a little bit. Here you go, Mama. Lisa, turn towards me this way. Beautiful, right about there. And I'm going to have you turn towards Anton just a little bit. And Anton, this time I want to see your booty, so turn around this way a whole bunch. I can get away with that. I'm an older lady. It's no big deal. And watch what I'm going to have him do. We have the ability to rock one way or the other. Anton, I want you to rock onto this leg. Beautiful. Why do I do that? You see, if you use terminology that people understand, like, if you use terminology that they don't understand, for instance, like put your weight on your back foot, which is his back foot? Right, none. But if I just say, hey, I want you to rock towards this leg and then tap that leg, it makes it super easy to get the weight off the other foot. So now I can take, Lisa, bring that hand right there and tuck it right through here. Bring this hand right up here on his muscle right in there. And I want you to lean into him with your chest. Beautiful. Very, very nice. Relax your shoulder just a whisper. Excellent. Hey, Anton, can you take this arm right here and put it around her waist? Gorgeous, right there. Anton, turn a tiny bit right there, just a little bit right in there. And with your chin, I want you to drop it on top of her head, almost, just not quite. Love it right in there. Take that shoulder right in there for me. Beautiful. Very, very nice. Excellent. Okay, stand away from each other for a minute, kids. Very good. And lastly, Lisa, can you stand over here for a second? Let's just work with the groom for the last minute and 20 seconds. So the first thing that I try to do, especially with a guy, is I want to get him a bit more relaxed. So stand flat-footed like you don't know what you're doing, okay? Can you just hunch forward a little bit for me, please? Just act normal. Oh, wait, that wouldn't be normal for you. The next thing I'm going to do is I want you to lift up your jacket and then put your hand in your pocket. Very good. I don't do the thing with the little thumb hanging out of the pocket because normal people don't do that, and I think it sounds cheesy. The next thing I want to do is I want this foot, I want to lift it off the ground. So I usually just tell them, hey, I want you to lift that foot off the ground and then just set it down gently like you're going to squish it. You're going to step on a butterfly and you don't want to squish it, right? So that means that they're going to just set it down gently. So there you go, set it down and then just gently, good job. And turn that foot towards me a little bit. Excellent. And then last thing, Anton, back up over there for me, honey. I want you to notice how important expression is. Because you can get people posed all day long, but if they have a zero expression on their face, you have nothing. So here's what I try to do. Okay, Daddy-O, on a count of 3, I want you to walk towards me. Okay, very good. You ready? 1, 2, 3, go. That's the worst job I've ever seen. Get back there and do it one more time. Okay, that's the look I'm looking for right there. I want that real smile. So that's where action versus reaction comes. Hey, I'm out of gas. I'm out of time. I hope that you'll stick around for these amazing Nikon speakers. I'm going to be wandering around the trade show. If you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you so much to Nikon for bringing me back.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hope you kids have a great day.
Bambi Cantrell. Nice job, nice job. Thank you so much. So now, without any break in between, it gives me great pleasure to bring up an artist